Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Government seeks to have states of emergency extended in Parliament today. Gastroenteritis outbreak worries councillors in St. Anne. And later in sports, first upset takes place at the FIFA World Cup. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pula and here are the details. All eyes will be on the House of Representatives this afternoon as the government seeks to have the states of emergency which were imposed on November 15 extended. According to legislation, the government needs 2/3 majority to have the security measure go beyond the initial 14 days. Herman Green reports.
It's left to see which member of the opposition, if any, will side with the government to get an extension of the recently announced states of emergency for Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. James, Westmoreland, and sections of the corporate area. The measure will go before the lower house of parliament during its sitting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Opposition leader Mark Golding on Sunday said a joint parliamentary executive meeting would have been held last evening to discuss the measure and to gauge the thoughts of its members. However, efforts to get a response from the hierarchy of the party on the outcome of that meeting proved futile. Numerous calls were placed to the cell phones of party president Mark Golding, party chairman Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, and General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell. All went unanswered. Speaking at the JLP's 79th annual conference on Sunday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the recent imposition of the security measure was already having an impact. He therefore called on the opposition PNP to assist in making the measure even more effective.
We see the current levels of murder as an emergency, and we invite the opposition to share this perspective in having the recently declared state of public emergency extended.
But so far it seems that at least one MP will not be in support of the extension. That person is Mark Golding. It comes following this statement from him at the St. James Central Constituency Conference at the weekend.
And we will take our decision as to what we will do on Tuesday in the House when the resolution comes to extend the state of emergency. I won't preempt that discussion, but you know where my heart is on the issue.
And there's also trouble for the government's efforts if it reaches the Senate.
I believe the serial and routine use of states of emergency as a tool of policing is unconstitutional. The courts have so far supported that view in the cases that have been brought before them. And until and unless the government provides some further information beyond what was in the Prime Minister's press conference, my position will not change.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
The opposition People's National Party says the country is worse off under the Jamaica Labour Party administration. The party leader was addressing supporters in St. James on Sunday. More in this report.
PNP members have joined some political analysts in criticizing JLP leader Andrew Holness's presentation at the JLP's conference on Sunday.
For them, things look like it never really turned up at all. All I can hear is that the speech flat.
In addition to criticizing the Prime Minister's speech, party representatives launched a broadside at the entire government. They believe every sector is in a worse state because of the current administration.
If you concerned about garbage, you're vexed with the government because of the garbage everywhere. If you're concerned about crime, you're vexed with the government because they have no solution. If you're concerned about education, you're vexed with the government because demons are jumping and pick me at school, pick me at fight at school, partner have no money, everything mash up.
Edwin Allen, have to tell the students, we are in the middle of November, over a month to go off school, and tell the students no lunch for part students for the rest of the term. Meanwhile, I am watching how much tens of millions them spending for them conference today.
PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell again criticized Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, but insists that it's nothing personal.
The people who stand up and defend him As soon as them time come to go down to the hospital, they start ball out and I say, Lord God Almighty, I said, don't get tan bad. So I am not on a stage because I have nothing personal against him. The issues that we're bringing up is because we see that the average person out there is suffering. And we know that it is the government's responsibility to intervene in these sectors to make things better for the people.
In light of the various sector issues, Party President Mark Golding made another call for unity for the party to have a chance at taking over leadership.
So comrades, we have a whole heap of work to do. The country is in a bad state. We have done, since I became leader 2 years ago, a lot of the time was focused on bringing the party back together. Because the PNP needs one strong, powerful voice so the Jamaican people can hear it and buy into it and put us where we need to be.
The constituency meeting was used to officially present Senator Gabriella Morris as the party's candidate for the Central St. James constituency in the next election.
The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, has launched an investigation into the fatal shooting of 24-year-old Taron Hewitt on Monday by a member of the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF. The shooting happened in the vicinity of a Kingston Central checkpoint on Law Street. INDECOM says, based on preliminary information, a confrontation had developed between community members and the soldiers. During the altercation, a soldier discharged his weapon and shot Mr. Hewitt. He was rushed to the Kingston Public Hospital where he was pronounced dead. No firearm was recovered or in the possession of the deceased at the time of the incident. Persons who sell e-cigarettes and other vaping products to children could find themselves in trouble once the new tobacco legislation is passed. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has expressed concerns about students using the devices. The revelation last week that students island-wide were unable to purchase e-cigarettes and other vaping from some convenience stores left many parents stunned.
Week that students island-wide were able to purchase e-cigarettes from convenience stores left many parents stunned. But it's an issue that's been on the National Council on Drug Abuse's radar since June.
It really is a situation that requires urgent attention. We have raised the issue with our parent ministry as well as with the Ministry of National Security in terms of clamping down on these establishments that are unlawfully selling these items to underage children.
The issue was brought into focus after TVJ News reported last week that students from the Spalding Primary School in Manchester were using the device at school. A student reportedly purchased the device from a nearby store and brought it to school. Parents have been calling for the shopkeeper who sold it to the child to be arrested and charged. We put the issue to the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton.
The Child Care and Protection Act, for example, does disallow and certainly restricts and provides penalties for adults who trade substances to minors. And so laws do exist now. The issue is really about how you enforce these laws.
Dr. Tufton added that changes are coming. He pointed to the Tobacco Control Bill, which among other things prevents the use of tobacco by children.
That legislation will include e-cigarettes or vaping devices as part of the overall framework to prevent and to discourage tobacco usage in general, but certainly stiffer penalties for those who trade to minors and students in schools. And we will see a more active campaign around that new legislation.
The bill is before a joint select committee for review. Once concluded, it will be taken to Parliament. The Health Minister is hoping the legislation will create the regulatory framework needed to prevent incidents like the one at Spalding Primary.
One of the things that has to accompany this discussion is public education to get both parents, students, school administrators aware, suppliers of these products, who may be legal suppliers in some instances, aware that they take the added precaution to avoid these products getting into the hands of minors. And then, of course, the enforcement through inspection and otherwise, and the penalties, which are going to be far more severe for those who are found in breach.
Anthony Lug, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Councillors in the St. Anne Municipal Corporation are taking issue with the Public Health Department for downplaying an outbreak of cases of gastroenteritis in the parish. The councillors raised the issue at the recent sitting of the council meeting last week. Gastroenteritis is a very common condition that causes diarrhea and vomiting. It's usually caused by a bacterial or viral stomach bug. Councillors at the St. Anne Municipal Corporation say quite a number of young people in that parish have been experiencing symptoms.
One of such students have been sent home from school for 2 weeks by the medical practitioner. The student had been sent home for 2 weeks by the medical practitioner. The mother told me this morning that the 2 weeks will expire tomorrow, Friday. But up to last night, the child is still complaining of severe pain down in the lower part of the child's body.
Councillor for the Claremont Division, Lambert Ware, believes the health department needs to check the causes behind students getting sick in the parish. He's of the view that the health department is not being truthful to the public.
I cannot understand how GE would cause fever, runny nose, short of breath, and pain such like. I know GE will have pain and vomiting, but runny nose is the first thing that started with all the students in the schools. The first thing that started. And I have about 5 schools that I know. St. Anne's is one, Westwood is another, Brownstone, schools in Brownstone, schools in Claremont.
However, the health department is insisting that there is no outbreak of gastroenteritis in the parish.
GE is brought back. It could be caused by viruses, it could be caused by bacteria, it could be caused by any causative agent. I do not know what the causative agent is. We do know, however, that where we receive the formal or informal reports, we proceed to do which is accordingly. I am afraid I might not be able to offer anything further.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here is Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, Jamaica earned more from exports for the January to July period this year. According to Statin, $939.7 million were earned from locally produced goods sold outside of Jamaica. That's a 2.3% improvement compared to last year, when Jamaica earned $918.3 million. Statin says the upward movement was driven by a 61.8% increase in the value of exports of mineral fuels. In business overseas, Latin America and Caribbean governments on Sunday selected Brazilian economist Ilan Golfan to lead the region's largest development bank in the wake of a misconduct probe that led to the firing of the previous president. Governors from the Inter-American Development Bank's 48 members selected Golfan to lead the Washington-based multilateral lender from a slate of 5 candidates nominated by Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Trinidad and Tobago. It follows the firing in September of Mauricio Coron, who was removed after an ethics probe found he likely carried on an intimate relationship with a subordinate. He denied the allegation. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
The Business Minute, brought to you.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the United States Coast Guard has transferred over 200 Haitian migrants to Bahamian authorities. This after they were found near the Bahamian shore. According to reports by the U.S. Coast Guard, the migrants were traveling in an overloaded vessel when they were spotted by the police. The U.S. Coast Guards say they have interdicted over 395 Haitian migrants since October 1 of this year. On the international scene, in the United States, health officials says there is a severe shortage of medications to treat issues like the flu, sore throats, and ear infections. According to the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, this shortage is not a manufacturing problem, but comes as a result of the demand for medication at this time of the year. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says more than half of the country has either high or very high classifications for respiratory virus activity. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your Midday Sports Report with Ronaldo Brown.